I'll be very brief. What we had yesterday was an example of the very finest work by the Shreveport Police Department, the Shreveport Fire Department, with assistance from the DeSoto Parish Sheriff's Office, the Bossier City, Bossier Parish Sheriff's Office, Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office. This proves that in Northwest Louisiana, we can all cooperate and work together to bring about a good result. The result of it was the rescue of a victim, the preservation of peace in the neighborhood, unfortunately the loss of life of the perpetrator, but without any loss of life of any of our first responders. And I cannot tell you how proud I am of the Shreveport Police Department, in particular the Shreveport Fire Department, for using good judgment, restraint, and making sure that the damage that was done in this particular circumstance was limited, given the fact that we had a very active shooter who was well armed and apparently well versed in using his arms. So I appreciate that. I'm going to let Chief. I've already expressed my appreciation for the equipment that was used, particularly the Bearcat that was borrowed, used from the Bossier City. I've expressed my appreciation to Mayor Chandler for his assistance. This is the kind of thing that we can do when we work together, and I appreciate that. I'll turn it over now for further remarks to Chief Smith.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. To begin with, let me echo what the mayor said. I can't thank our area law enforcement and first responders enough for your assistance yesterday. The Caddo Parish Sheriff's Department, the DeSoto Parish Sheriff's Office, the Bossier City Police Department, the Bossier City Sheriff's Office, the Louisiana State Police, the United States Marshal's Office, ATF, Shreveport Fire Department, FBI, DEA, the Signal 51 group, all participated in helping us to neutralize our threat and bring our community back to a safe condition. One of the neat things about our relationship, our cooperative relationship in North Louisiana, many of the ones that I just mentioned did not get a call from us to come and help. They automatically showed up and offered whatever services that they could. Many of us in law enforcement, we have different tools, different technologies that we use in our particular profession. But in a situation like we had yesterday, all of the technology was used that each agency had that helped us to keep as many people as safe as possible and neutralize this threat to our community. I can't thank you so much. Beginning shortly before 7 o'clock, a horrible event began to unfold out in the 9400 block of Crooked Creek. Horrible event. SPD received a call that a man was coming to a particular location that had said that he was going to kill the individuals inside of that residence. That man made his way to that neighborhood. That man made his way to that resident. That lone armed individual was well armed, had an unusual amount of ammunition, with all indication with the intent of harming everyone that was in that residence. The calls began to come in to 911 about this. The man made his way to that resident. He began to fire inside of that resident even before he made entry. Once that happened, a nearby neighbor, encountered the man on the outside, and this lone suspect shot that neighbor, which I must report looked like he will recover from his injuries. Sometime after that, another neighbor engaged with this man, and an exchange of gunfire occurred. At some point or another, SPD arrived while the man was engaged with gunfire to a neighbor. Officers of SPD arrived, and they also engaged from a distance because they were fired upon. At some point or another thereafterward, the residents evacuated the house, all but one, juvenile female that had found a place to hide of refuge inside the house. The man, from what we understand, barricaded himself in the house, and sometime another during this event, he fired upon the young female, or the room that she was hiding in, and she herself got struck by gunfire. And I'm happy to say today, from what we know, she will also make a full recovery. Officers, once he barricaded himself into the house, the negotiators arrived on the scene. Contact was made with the gentleman with an attempt to try to negotiate this and get him to surrender, of which he refused. Negotiation continued for quite some time, still with no indication that he planned on refusing. Once it was learned by SPD that the young female was inside the house, through our different techniques and tactics and the technology that is available to us, it was learned which part of the house that she was in. I'm so proud of SPD officers. Once we learned the location that she was in, then our efforts reverted to trying to preserve her life, get her to safety. SPD officers made a breach in the room where we felt that she was. As SPD officers, the three officers began to go in through the window, the outside exterior of the house, try to locate this young lady. They met a barrage of gunfire from the suspect. But these officers never, not at one time, backed away from that mission of safety and was able to go in and bring the young lady to safety. During all of this, the suspect still refusing to give himself up. Through our technology, to try to get better intelligence of what's going on inside the house and where the active shooter is, SPD deployed a drone. The drone itself was enabled. It was shot down by the suspect. Not long after that, SPD deployed another drone, and the gunman also fired upon it and disabled it by shooting it down. The negotiations continued to no avail, and it was quite obvious all along the way, and especially toward the end, that the suspect had no intent of surrendering, but skillfully were trying to lure first responders in his line of sight to be assassinated, to try to lure them to come inside the residence from their areas of cover and concealment so they could be assassinated. Also thinking in his mind that this would probably